Study ranks AOC as one of the least effective members of Congress. So when you look at how good a politician is at affecting change, you can't do what this study does and simply do a statistical analysis off of bills like passed or whatever. You need to look at how they are influencing public opinion. You need to look at how that influenced public opinion is changing how bills are coming out. You have to look at amendments they push through. For example, like a big infrastructure bill like Biden is pushing through right now. She's not going to get credit for that, but has her influence changed how this policy is going to come out? Has Bernie Sanders' influence changed how this policy is going to come out? Yes, probably. These are called policy entrepreneurs. Policy entrepreneurs can affect policy in many different ways. So, for example, Andrew Yang, he did not pass a single policy. He did not even work in government whatsoever. But as a policy entrepreneur, he made, the concept of a UBI so well known and popular that that was the go-to during the pandemic. Or he is one of the people who helped change the public attitude towards that perception. So, like studies like this, I think leave a lot of stuff out, especially when you're a fringe political actor like AOC. You're not going to get a lot of your own shit through because people aren't going to want to vote for a bill that has AOC's name on it. There's an example of Bernie Sanders where if he wanted a policy through, he may actually tell somebody else to draft the bill for it. Because if his name was on it, since he was such a political outsider, since Bernie Sanders was a self-described socialist, people wouldn't want to sign on to his bill. But if he wanted that bill done, he said to somebody else, like maybe Elizabeth Warren, "Hey, how about you make this bill? I'll support it, so we can actually get it through because people aren't gonna want to support what I'm on." This is what happens with a lot of people who are fringe, fringe politically.
Unfortunately, I got to do one more story on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez here. This is not good for her. Take a look. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was among the least effective members of the last Congress, according to...
What's with Kyle Kulinski lately? Whenever it fits his agenda, he'll watch he'll read a corporate article and believe everything.
A new survey from the Nonpartisan Center for Effective Lawmaking, a joint project of Vanderbilt University and the University of Virginia. AOC introduced a total of 21 bills, which the center defined as substantive. But that is where the story ends. Her legislation received no action in committees, no floor votes, and none ever became law, according to the center, which takes its data from Congress.gov. Quote, she introduced a lot of bills, but she was not successful at having them receive any sort of action in committee or beyond committee, and if they can't get through committee, they cannot pass the House. Alan Wiseman, a Vanderbilt political scientist and co-director of the center, told the Post. Quote, it's clear that she was trying to get her legislative agenda moving and engage with the lawmaking process, Wiseman added, but she wasn't as successful as some other members were, even among other freshmen, at getting people to pay attention to her legislation. So when you look at the numbers, among Democrats, she was 230th out of 240. 230th out of 240. Now, some might say, well, if you're the left flank of the party, this is just what's going to happen. That's actually not true, because I think they referenced, was it Rashida Tlaib? I think it was Rashida Tlaib, who actually ranked pretty well. She had a number of her bills were voted on. So, now, let's talk about how everybody's going to react to this, okay? What I saw, believe it or not, is the right...
Okay, signing on to a bill with Rashida Tlaib, all due respect to her, is not the same as the giant that is AOC. That's a lot different.
No, that's actually not true. She's incredibly effective. That's weird. Well, why would they?
And if Kyle Kulinski thinks AOC plays nice with Democrats, he needs to look at Rashida Tlaib's record.
It appears to be a relatively empirical way of judging it. You know what I mean? Like, there's very little opinion in this. They're just saying, look at the number of bills they proposed, how many got any action in committee, how many were voted on, how many became law. See, it's a very empirical way of looking at the situation when it comes to policy. But on Fox News, they had to say, oh, no, that's not true. She's actually one of the most effective. Now, why are they saying that? They're saying that because they want to have their boogeyman. They want to have somebody where, they could scare their 87-year-old audience about on a daily basis, and they've settled on AOC, and so they don't want to lose that as a propaganda argument that they make 24/7. And so they're insistent that, no, well, policy is not really the thing that matters the most. What matters the most is the culture, and she's impacting the culture more than anything, and so therefore, we disagree with the way that they looked at this, and she's actually, incredibly effective. That's what the right is saying. The left I actually haven't seen say anything on this. I think most of them are just dodging this report that came out, and they're not talking about it. But, yeah, you could say, one argument the left could make is, well, it's not her fault that the rest of Congress is phenomenally corrupt and bought and owned by big money interests. And
okay, we don't have to say corrupt, but yeah, Congress doesn't like her. She's a freshman congresswoman, very polarizing, one of the most popular politicians, or well-known politicians in the country. They might not want to vote on her legislation, like I said.
And so, yeah, you might be an effective lawmaker, and get your bills passed, but what all your bills would suck, and they would serve Wall Street and the military-industrial complex and corporate America. And so, should we celebrate that? Should we call that effective? Sure, it's effective, but it's effective towards negative ends.
And if you only, like, let's say, for example, you release legislation on something very minor and get it through, does that count to this study? Like, people always made fun of Bernie Sanders for renaming a post office, right? Does that count for this study? Does that matter more than influencing public opinion on the Green New Deal?
So it's almost like, are you punishing her for actually being idealistic and having good ideas, and the rest of Congress sort of stonewalling her good ideas? So that's one argument that the left could make. They could say, hey, it's true, but that's not her fault. It's because the rest of Congress is so phenomenally corrupt, and she's not getting anything done because they're all corrupt and she's not. And so her priorities never get through. That's one way to look at it. The way I look at it is that's partly true, the left-wing theoretical argument I just made. But yes, it's also the case that she is, first and foremost, somebody who tweets all day and somebody who generates media attention. And is there something to be said about that? Sure. But is that the end-all be-all? No. And I do think the fact that she's this ineffective is an indictment on her. I do. Because, and this is a point I've made
Is he going to say she doesn't fight enough?
1,000 times on this show, and you would think it shouldn't be controversial. But it is controversial. Now, you guys hear it and you might totally agree. But, there's a lot of people who say they agree and then go on to disagree with this in pretty blatant ways. So the real way, if you're on the left and you want to get stuff accomplished in Congress, there's a few ways to do it. One way is doing the type of bipartisanship that's on your terms. So in other words, there are Republican congresspeople who want to end wars. There are. There's a number of them. So what you can do is you can work with the libertarian right on ending wars. You could work with the libertarian right on civil liberties and anti-Patriot Act stuff. You could work with them on ending the drug war.
Bro, the study was on shit she wrote. It's not talking about her overall political impact. This is a very limited study. Like, even if she did this, if she signed on to somebody else's bill about ending the conflict in Yemen or whatever, like Bernie Sanders did with that one Mike Lee guy, that wouldn't be involved in this study.
You can work with the few people who are populist right on, like, the $2,000 checks. There were a number of Republicans.
Yeah, Kyle Kulinski unironically uses the right-wing framing that she just tweets all day.
Or the $2,000 checks. You could work with people on the populist right on trade policy because they say, okay, we want to increase U.S.
Because I'm sure AOC writes every individual tweet.
Manufacturing, and so we want to stop outsourcing jobs. You could work with them on stuff like that. So you can form alliances on very specific issues with different factions of the right. On some economic stuff, there's a handful of populist right people you could work with, and along with a number of people on the left who will work with
you. What is he talking about? What, bill is going to pass through committees that, Josh Hawley and AOC would agree on, that other Democrats and Republicans would, hop on to as well? What is he talking about?
And on, again, war, so foreign policy, civil liberties, the drug war, you can work with the libertarian right people who agree with you on that.
Ooh.
And you got a number of people on the left as well. So that's one way of doing it.
The parties are in complete gridlock, especially since frickin' Trump is out.
Partisanship on your terms.
Polarization.
And Ro Khanna has proven that this is effective.
Partisanship on your terms?
Because Ro Khanna did it. Bernie Sanders did it with Yemen. The whole Yemen thing.
That's the one example. I brought that up too. It's the one well-known example. It's the only example you can bring up.
Our support of the genocide in Yemen, that passed the House and that passed the Senate. It just died on Trump's desk. Okay, but this can be done. This stuff can be done. That's one way to do it. But in order to do that, you need to not use the language of,
But if it's somebody else's bill, they wouldn't give her credit for that. She voted for that.
All my colleagues on the right are irredeemable deplorables. And, they want me killed, and they're terrible people, and they're bigots, and they're racist, and this and that. Now, can you criticize them when they're wrong about stuff? Of course you can, and you should. But you need to be clear and specific, and don't be vituperative and over the top and hyperbolic and unnecessarily dramatic. And unfortunately, I think that's what AOC does all the time. So she's ineffective. Nobody really likes her there.
Wait, so she is, on one hand, not combative enough, but on the other hand, she is she's too dramatic and radical. So for Kyle Kulinski's liking, she's too radical for the right, but too tame for the left. AOC is simply an idiot who tweets all day, and she is dramatic. She's an actor. This is really getting close to Jimmy Dore, Richard Medhurst content, honestly.
Some of that you can blame on them, of course, but some of that you gotta look in the mirror. So that's one way to get stuff done. The other way to get stuff done is the strategy that is even more, impossible for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other people on the left, and it's honestly pathetic, but it's true.
What?
Copy the Tea Party approach. So it should be Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ro Khanna, Rashida Tlaib, Pramila Jayapal.
When AOC's bill doesn't go through and her policy isn't popular enough, what AOC should do is start lashing out. Just start screaming.
Mark Pocan, Raul Grajava, there should be a block, Ilhan Omar, of a dozen left-wing congresspeople who are willing to hold bills hostage and who are willing to play, aggressive
Hostage
politics.
to what?
Who are
Wait,
willing
what?
to block things when things need to be blocked, who are willing to band together and build coalition and take out the flamethrower when necessary to get people to fall in line.
Hey, dude, if somebody else wants to do this strategy, sure. If somebody else in the Progressive Coalition wants to do that, yeah, sure. AOC's role in this entire thing, as a policy entrepreneur, as a leader of the movement, her role isn't to tank her approval rating. Her role is to get support from Democrats, to be popular with Democrats, to be normal to Democrats, to suburban Democrats, to working class Democrats, to people of color who are Democrats. That is her job in this entire thing. Influence public opinion. Do what you can to influence legislation through that. That is her job. If Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar wants to take a big hit on their approval rating or whatever, to do something like that, to hold up a bill, to go on as, go shouting through Congress, I demand my policy to be voted on or whatever, sure. But people have different roles in this entire thing, and I think AOC plays her role decent. I mean, it's a pretty difficult thing to do. If you can find me another politician in American history that has done better balancing what she has to do, please bring that person up. I know Kyle Kulinski brings up like FDR, which I already said millions of times why that's a dumb comparison. But I mean, like, I don't know.
You would be so much more effective if you actually were principled and unapologetic.
Yeah, exactly, JKRT. AOC is trying to win over liberals who like Pelosi. Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah, that's what you got to do. It's a really, really controversial statement, I know, but you need to have voters like you to get wins in a democracy. You need voters to, you need voters to like what you're doing and to like you. So like if a Democrat votes for Democrats, what is a big complaint you heard throughout the entire primary about Bernie Sanders? What is a big complaint you heard? Oh, Bernie Sanders, he isn't even a real Democrat. He just runs as a Democrat for the presidential elections. Bernie Sanders doesn't care about the party. And I know, as much as it makes us, millennials and Gen Z and whatever the hell I am, I forget. What is 21? I don't know. But it makes us cringe being very dedicated to a political party. Although that is true. Old people change elections. So if you want to, and people are very polarized in how they vote. Many people do vote straight Democrat. So you need Democratic voters. Sorry, I mean.
And aggressive on issues where you can
Wine
build that
moms.
coalition, hold that coalition.
Unironically, that's why guns are talked about so much in the Democratic Party. It's because of wine mom votes. That's why Beethoven thought he was going to get a lot of votes when he said, "Damn right, we're going to take your AR-15s" on the debate stage. Remember that?
But they seem fundamentally incapable of mounting a public pressure campaign. They seem fundamentally incapable of taking on the fights that need to be, that need to be.
What else can she do to mount a public pressure campaign? Like, I think Kyle Kulinski has a big movie in his head about like political change, and he saw like a couple documentaries about the civil rights movement, and he saw people chanting in the streets, and he thinks that all politics is literally just people yelling with signs, and then if like enough people get into the streets, then policy will change, when it's a lot more complicated than that. And on these issues, you're not going to get millions of people marching on Washington. And even with that many people, it would be difficult to do. A lot of this power, I know soft power and hard power is usually used for like foreign affairs, but there is soft and hard power in politics as well, I think. Like soft power would be the implicit power that you get within the system by playing the game right and using your influence to exert pressure, instead of hard power, which would be like just like knocking on the door of the White House or whatever. Like that isn't possible. I don't know. Hey man, he believes in his vision though.
Taken head on. And
yo, Mr. Beast on YouTube. Wow.
The result is, if you're not going to act like the Tea Party and have a coalition.
Wait, did he actually say to Crystal Ball what we need is a champion? Like in a, it's a documentary about Bernie Sanders. It's like him walking upstairs and Kyle Kulinski in the background. What we need is a champion. We need somebody principled, somebody who's willing to fight. We don't need these little baby dramatic little drama queens like Nancy, like AOC. We don't need them.
That's aggressive and direct in blocking bills and pushing your own bills.
Direct.
You're not going to do bipartisanship on your terms and build bridges on specific issues.
Whatever that means.
What's left is you rank, what is it, 230 out of 240 or something like that? You're going to rank 230 out of 240, and none of your stuff's even going to get a committee hearing. Definitely none of this stuff's going to be voted on. None of it's going to become law. So I just don't think she's good at the job of legislating. I don't. Now, again, some of that, to be fair, is because by definition, a lot of the stuff that she would focus on, that she would care about, like for example, I think the first bill she proposed was limiting the interest rate, like predatory interest rates. I think it like made it so that nobody could charge more than 12% interest, right?
Yes, Kyle Kulinski's politics. We need a champion. Bernie Sanders, you know what? He doesn't care. Bernie Sanders is too dumb to be our champion. AOC, guess what? She also doesn't care. AOC is also too dumb to be our champion. You know who really has it figured out? I haven't thought about this before. You know who really has it thought out? We need a champion. AOC, no. Bernie, no. Losers. We need Jimmy Dore.
And, you have payday loan industry sharks who charge 200% interest. And so it would ban loan sharking effectively. It would ban predatory payday loans. And it would go after big financial institutions as well and limit the amount of interest they can charge. So yes, you can make the argument Congress is never going to go for that because they're so bought and owned by financial industries.
A dog president would do the same amount that Joe Biden does. Presidents don't do shit. Just saying. The admins do. The party does.
That they're not going to go along with an idea that's so good for the people and so bad for their donors.
Right now, Biden is like naked in front of his TV eating chocolate ice cream or whatever.
Yes, I just want to be clear. There is truth in that criticism.
Sunglasses on indoors.
That her agenda, by definition, is harder to get through because it's for the people, and Congress is not for the people. I think that's true. But I also think, there's a reason why Bernie Sanders...
No, weed addict. I have this on faster speed.
...was way more effective at getting stuff done. And do an apples-to-apples comparison. However, take the same time period for Bernie Sanders, and he got a lot more accomplished. Number one, they called him the Amendment King. He always managed to get amendments into unrelated bills that were phenomenal for the people. Number two, he worked with Ron Paul on a number of things that were successful. That's the libertarian right.
Yes, because he took his name off of it. But due to this study, or according to this study, if you take your name off of it, you wouldn't get credit in this study. Did Kyle read it? Did Kyle read the study? I don't think so. Okay, well, what's next?